grandma's recipe calls for 2 cups of flour, shortening, and salt and water. So you go get the salt.
Okay.
And do you know what shortening is?
Yes.
Alright, so instead of using just shortening, I'm going to use butter and shortening. So go get a stick of butter out. And it's okay if it stays cold. Okay, so you do the 2 cups of flour in here. But we lost our cup measure. You'll have to use the half cup. You have to do 4 of these. Try to make them even.
Okay.
You want to use this?
Yes.
You gotta put it like this, so it scrapes it off, not onto itself. Here you go. Okay, so we got the 2 cups of flour. Now, my grandma says 3/4 of a cup of shortening, but I'm going to use half a cup of butter, which is 1 stick. So if I use half a cup of butter and it calls for 3/4 of a cup, that means I need a 1/4 cup more, because a half plus a 1/4 is 3/4. So I'm going to do this. You go ahead and unwrap this, and we're going to cut it in slices.
Okay.
So that's 1 stick of butter and a 1/4 cup of shortening. And we're going to need a little dash of salt. Use the salt shaker for that. You know, just a little dash. Oops. There's a dash of salt in it. Big dash. That's fine. Alright, so, and then 1/3 a cup of water. So I'm going to use cold water because we have butter in there. We're going to try to keep it cold. While I'm getting the water, I'm going to just mix this in the food processor.
Should I press dough?
Not yet. Hold on. I gotta say something first. So you can use a pastry cutter. Let me find it. So this is a pastry cutter, and I could spend 10 minutes just doing this in a bowl, trying to cut the butter into the flour, but it's going to take forever, and I also don't love this particular one. So it's a lot faster, a lot better, in my opinion, to just pulse the butter into the flour in the food processor. So Liza, you can pulse it until the butter is just like these little crumbs of butter in the flour.
Okay. A 1/3 of a cup of water. You can dump it out. So it came together into a nice dough ball. We're going to roll out the crust. My grandma says you can divide this dough recipe into 2 or 3 dough balls. And because we're going to do a lattice top, I'm just going to use 2. I only need to make 1 pie today. So I'm going to
divide it into. Liza, can you fill this with flour and bring it over here again so we can flour the surface? I don't have to make this perfectly even. I can have less for the top of the pie and more for the bottom of the pie because we're just doing a lattice top. So we'll use this for the lattice top, the smaller one. And the bigger one, just a little bit bigger than the other, we'll use for the bottom. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to do this one. I'll let you take over in just a minute. But you're supposed to keep it a nice round ball, or at least a disc. Something round so that when you start spreading it out with a rolling pin, it stays in a circle. So you're going to constantly be thinking, I want to keep it in a circle. So whatever is looking a little lopsided, even out that edge to make it a circle. See how I'm just gently starting at the middle of the dough, pushing it out. Don't push too hard, be gentle. We can't just pick it up like this or it'll break.
So we're gonna flip it?
We have to gently fold it and move this out of the way. I will do the folding this time. It is tricky because we already made it so thin. It's gonna just be, it's gonna be difficult. What would help with this is a spatula. I'm going to loosen it up. And it would also help if we refrigerate the dough a little bit. So,
flip right here.
Alright, loosen it up a little bit more. So yeah, we should have refrigerated this before we roll it out. But it is still possible to get it correct. It's just going to be a little bit more delicate. So that was one of the disadvantages of using all shortening, because shortening can make the pie crust even more hard to work with. The problem with butter, there's problems with both, but if you use only butter, you have to just make sure it's super cold the whole time, so the dough has to be cold. So how about you help me patch this back up? Just wherever we need to repair it, we'll repair it. And make sure we have extra. If you're going to put extra anywhere, put the extra around the edges so that we have nice crust to fold over. You can use two hands like I am doing to just press the dough on the sides of the pan. We almost made it. Next time, we're gonna refrigerate the dough. But the nice thing about pie crust is you can usually press it back together, and if you're having trouble pressing it back together, you can just wet your fingertips a little bit and do it that way. Okay, now help me by folding over the crust so that we're making a nice little lip of dough at the top of that edge. We don't want it on this top, we want this to be the handle. We want the crust to just come to the top of this plate. Alright, let's focus on the next part. Grandma's apple pie. So, we're going to make the cinnamon filling first, so I'm going to have you work on that. We need 1 cup of brown sugar.
Brown sugar?
While we're doing that, I'm going to refrigerate this lattice-top milk of dough.
Brown sugar.
3 of these. When you're measuring brown sugar, you have to pack the brown sugar into the measuring cup. Okay, now we need 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon. So you go take care of that part, add it to the brown sugar. My grandma says approximately 8 cups of apples. So this is a 1/3 cup. Go ahead and get a 1/3 cup of flour into that sugar mixture. Alright, now you use one of these forks and stir it all together.
Come over here and do this.
Okay. Just cleaned up. And then I'm going to cut these . Alright, you can bring the brown sugar bowl over here. Put that away. I'm happy about that. Sorry. I'll cut this in 4ths so that the pieces are about this big. That seems like a good bite-sized piece. I'm just going to check to see if all the core is out. So most of it is, I'll just leave that in. Except for this little part that's a little bit harder. Sometimes the core leaves parts that
hard to eat.
it shouldn't, yeah. It's because some of the apples just aren't perfectly symmetrical. Alright, go ahead and put those in. I'll leave the bruised ones in because they're just going to cook down and no one will know.
These ready?
I don't know. Check the core. So what I want you to do is grab a spoon and just grab some of that. Yeah, there you go. Now sprinkle it over the bottom. Nice thin layer of the flour sugar mixture so that it coats the bottom. So the juices of the apple don't get the crust all soggy. Yep, try to just make sure the whole bottom part of that is covered with the sugar and the flour.
I'm gonna wash my hands.
Chilled dough. Keep it in a circle.
We need an
It's slightly bigger than the crust itself, or the pie plate itself. So we are going to use a knife. I'm not going to use that knife. I'm going to use a smooth knife. And I'm going to go ahead and use a ruler. I'm not going to push too hard because our counter is not real granite. Gently dragging it just until now we have to count to see how many we have.
Okay, I'm not doing it.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Which means we'll be able to do 4 one way and 4 the other way. So before we put lattice on, we need something else. What do you think we need? Can't put the lattice on yet, can we?
Because we need.
You gotta put the pie filling in there. So, go ahead and the recipe calls for 3/4 of a cup to 1 cup of brown sugar. And I used the full amount. Okay, that's good. We'll leave that
Is it
sugar in the
melted?
bottom. Just leave it. I have an idea for that sugar for later. We'll see if my idea works.
So did the brown sugar melt?
Yeah, the apple juices dissolved it. Alright, so we're going to keep the apples just a little bit away from the dough so that the apples don't get
Too much juice.
in our way.
But I think I know how to do a lattice. It's kind of like weaving, isn't it?
Yeah, but you'd be surprised at how difficult it can get if you do something wrong. So we're just going to be patient
So the longest one goes in the
and
middle.
do a little bit at a time to make it beautiful. Okay, now we need 4 one way and 4 the other way. And we need the short ones on the short end. So here's one for that end. It's a short one for this end. Here's a long one for the middle over here. Here, I'll fold this guy in. I'm not going to fold him in half. He might break. So, I'm going to have a long one for this end now. This one did break, but that's okay. It was sticking to
this one has a crack. I'm gonna fix it. There we go.
Looks like I could have floured just a little bit better.
That reminds me.
Okay, we're going to try to repair this a little at a time. Okay. Yes, we could have done a little bit better keeping it floured, but
It's fine.
We'll just have to be very careful. And it's going to be a little frustrating because the dough wasn't really completely cold yet and it's hot in this kitchen. So it's going to be frustrating to do. Just warning you, this is maybe going to get frustrating. Started. So we're going to have this one under and this one over. And I'm just going to focus on this.
Kind of like weaving.
Yep. Now this one has to come under. That'll be hidden. Over. This will be under. And it will end up over.
That's a lot.
Okay, yes, it is. It is weaving. Now let's do this one next. Because this one had gone under before, so it's gonna go over. That's gonna go under. Now it's gonna go over. Now it's gonna go under. Alright, well, that is not the most beautiful lattice top I've ever seen. But here's something we can do. Wherever it's not connected properly, I'm going to get a little water on my fingertip and just try to connect it as gently as I can. We're just going to gently, look how good a job that did. It's like glue. So just like glue. And the nice thing about pie crust is that even though it's frustrating, it's actually easy to fix most of the time. I'm going to look for a couple more spots to do and then we'll work on the edges. So what I'm going to do now, since we have these edges here, I'm just going to trim off the really extra parts that are hanging over. Trim those off. We'll save these.
Pieces of dough too.
Yeah, we're going to save them for if we need extra. We probably will. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to gently, these edges, fold them, tuck them just like that, gently, and press them into the bottom crust.
That?
So with this extra, I'm just going to add it where I feel like I need it,
Yeah.
just to make the crust a little bit thicker in some spots, higher in some spots. It's a bit too much. But alright, we'll be done now. The more we touch it, I think the worse it'll get. Alright, now, what I'm going to do now, so I have this sugar in the bottom, I'll switch it out. Let's put a little milk in there too, just a little bit, and then we're going to brush that sugary milky mixture on top of the pie, and I'm going to set the oven for 375. And I will add the half the butter because we forgot that. Show this.
What's this, Liza? What's this, Liza?